Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey.
Welcome back to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton.
Hey!
And then there's Mark Hallock.
Hey, what's up?
That was me, by the way.
I'm Dan Hurst. There's Kyle Bierman. We are in a podcast studio at the North American Mission Board.
And it's 88 degrees in this studio.
Mark has already complained about
Mark
how...
and I we've already taken off our outer garments.
They're down to their T-shirts.
That's right.
It's just not glorious. It's inglorious.
Seeing Mark and I in T-shirts, it's a good thing this is not on video.
Which brings us to our subject today, and that is, let me begin by a quote from Charles Spurgeon.
Oh, there you go.
You cannot judge a horse by its harness. Now... So, with that in mind, have at it, guys.
What should a pastor wear?
That's what we're talking about.
Mainly in the pulpit, but also whenever you're just out and about. But I mean, really, what should you wear in the pulpit? Because there was a time, Reverend Hurst, when your father and my father were preaching down the stars from heaven, that you wore a suit every Sunday in church. Now, your dad was in Honduras.
Oh, yeah, mission field is a little different.
It was a little different.
Yeah.
But if he was here in the States,
yeah,
when he preached, and every Sunday my dad preached. I know my dad had we were very, pretty poor. We lived in a parsonage, but he had about 2 or 3 suits. And I remember a lot of times going with him on Friday to the dry cleaners, A&M dry cleaners, and he picked up his suit, had it dry cleaned. And I do remember almost every Saturday night he would polish his shoes. I can still see my dad sitting there polishing his shoes, So every Sunday morning he had on a suit and polished shoes and a tie. My mom would pick out his tie. And he would always wear a suit, never not wear a suit.
Yeah, it would be unheard. I mean, like back in that generation.
But then most of the men in church wore suits too.
Yeah.
They would wear suits. Even in a rural situation, a lot of times they'd wear a tie or something like that. Not always, but usually. However, we don't live in 1967 anymore. And what in the world are you supposed to wear when you preach? Yeah. And you and I, Mark, and we travel a lot and preach to a lot of different audiences. And even then, I'm not real sure how to dress. Even when I'm not sure how to dress. Period. That's my problem.
But different audiences.
When you gotta shop in the husky department at Sears,
your options are limited.
Are limited anyway.
That bring flashbacks from back when I was 8, 9, 10 years old.
Husky jeans.
Yeah.
Well, listen. So I've had this conversation with many guys over the years, and it's interesting. You get mixed reactions to this whole conversation, and so let me ask you guys this: why does this even matter? I mean, does it matter like what you wear, or
yes? Of course it matters. I mean, of course you're standing up there for 45 minutes and everybody's looking at you. What you're wearing probably says something about it. Yep. And yes, it does matter. It's extremely controversial now and divisive. If you came down on the side that you should always suit up, wear a coat and tie, man, you get so many people that would just rip that up one side and down the other. On the other hand, if you're up too casually and your shirt tail's untucked and you're wearing jeans, I hear a lot of times, you guys watch ESPN, or my wife loves to watch hockey. We watch hockey every night during the hockey season. We have NHL Center Ice. She knows all the teams. And, the other night we were watching it, it came, they have between the periods, they have 3 periods. So it becomes between the periods, and I start to switch the channel. She goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Well, it's between. I want to watch this." Oh, I said, "Okay." First I said, "Why?" "Well, I like what they say. This guy's really good." And then she said this, "And the hockey announcers wear the best-looking suits."
Oh, really?
Which is actually true. A lot of them are Canadian, and there's a whole different style. And she's and so whether you're watching hockey or football or baseball, the commentators generally wear suits.
Oh well, except the baseball and football commentators dress like clowns for the most part. They don't know anything about dressing for success.
No, that's true. But I'm talking about if you're watching just the sports show on ESPN, not the sideline stuff. Or if you watch the nightly news, I mean, for the most part, even the weather guy, he's still wearing a suit. So you're saying, well, if they're wearing a suit because the information they're delivering is important, Should not you wear a suit if the information you deliver?
Is that what it communicates? I guess is wearing a suit. What does that communicate? I mean, obviously, throughout like when your father, not your grandparents, your dads were preaching, there was a mindset of, hey, this is the house of the Lord. We're going to
This message is important, and therefore I need to look like it's important.
Yeah.
And so I think that the reason some guys suit up, as we say, is to really sort of make a point. And oftentimes guys who suit up will also be guys who stand behind a real pulpit, not a cocktail table that they picked up at Buffalo Wild Wings on sale.
Well, let's talk about. Let's take the reverse then.
Yeah.
Why do people dress the way they do?
Sure. I think the guy who dresses in a suit, which I do most of the time if I can, usually maybe a vest and a tie.
But you've moved on that.
I've moved on that. I didn't used to.
Because you used to be more like more lax.
Well, I used to wear Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where...
that was your thing.
Well, that's where Rick Warren got him. He saw me one time wearing one, and the rest is history.
He's like, that's it, man.
No, I wore Hawaiian shirts. And I did all. I told you in a previous podcast I wouldn't have liked my 30-year-old self.
Yeah.
So, I did all of that for sure. But now, one of the reasons I suit up now is I'm my age, right? I'm old. I look old. This may come as a shock to some. I probably don't have the best physique of any man you've ever met. And so I tend to look a little better in dressier clothes rather than if I don't wear dressy clothes, I look like an unmade bed. Okay, so I don't need to be up in the pulpit looking like an unmade bed. So I do my best to dress up, but I stand behind a pulpit because this is my opinion, and it's not gospel. It's just my opinion. But I think when you walk in to a sanctuary and there is a pulpit there, it says, I don't know what's going to happen, but it has something to do with that piece of furniture up there. And then when you see a man come out, maybe he doesn't have a tie, but he's got some nice slacks and a nice jacket, you go, okay, this must be important because he's dressed for the occasion. On the other hand, you could say if you come out and it's just a little round top table and a bottle of water and their guy comes out in sneakers, jeans, and his shirt's untucked, okay, this is pretty casual. Maybe we're just going to have a conversation here. I think the reason guys dress up is they're trying to make a statement, sort of importance and sincerity. I think the reason, this is oversimplified, the guys don't dress up and they dress down is they want to be approachable. They don't want to seem standoffish.
Yeah, that's right.
They want to be close to the people. They want to make that connection.
Yep.
They don't want to create anything that makes somebody think, I couldn't connect with this guy. He's not like me.
Some barrier.
They want to remove barriers. So I think the guys who want to dress casually want to remove barriers. I think the guys who want to dress up want to make a statement. I don't think they're necessarily at odds. They're just trying to do two different things.
Well, and I think context really matters. I mean, I think about on the mission field, right? I mean, your dad, it would have been pretty weird if he was in a three-piece suit.
But true.
Right? So part of this depends on what the audience you're speaking to.
And he would have looked weird when we were back in the States if he was there with a pith helmet. It's just,
right,
it's just you don't. So there is some cultural aspect to it.
Yeah.
But how do you dress?
Well, I mean, I'm more at our church. What's interesting is I'm kind of a mix of what Clifton just described because we have a pulpit.
Right.
I preach from a pulpit.
Yeah.
But our dress is more. I don't wear a suit. I don't wear a tie. So I'll wear either nice jeans or khakis and a collared shirt. So pretty
tucked in.
But I'm also in Denver.
You're in Denver.
Yeah, maybe tucked, maybe not. So, but if you looked out, that's how the whole congregation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how people. Yeah. It's a little more casual, Colorado. I mean, when I went to the church, I told the search committee, I said, "Listen, if you would like me to preach in a suit, I'm happy to preach in a suit. I'd probably prefer not to, but I will." And they laughed at me and said, "We don't want you in a suit.
Yeah.
We don't wear suits around here." So, again, but that's the culture I'm in. I go to the South. If I'm speaking to the South.
In some places.
In some places in the South, man, I'm going to have a sport coat. And I mean, you know what I mean? It depends on the context.
I do think, again, I think maybe if you're an older person like me, I think trying not to dress like you're in your 40s is pretty good, or 30s. Don't wear skinny jeans.
Don't try to look cool.
Don't try to look
young.
cool when you're in your 50s or 60s. Don't try to do that. Just be who you are.
Yeah.
But again, I think one of the reasons some guys dress up is they want to make a statement that. And I walk into a church and I'll see a guy in his 20s or early 30s, and he's wearing a suit and tie and he's getting ready to preach, and it does communicate. Okay, this is maybe important, and you don't see that very often even in the culture.
That's true.
And I don't really think it's a barrier between them and their people, but others would disagree with me.
Yeah.
And they'd say, well, you're not being authentic, you're looking, But I understand it. And I'll say I lean toward wanting guys to suit up.
Yeah.
I just do, period.
Look nicer.
Even though I didn't used to do it.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, there was times at Warnell, I preached in K-State football jersey. I had a really good career at K-State playing football, and I didn't want to give up the jersey. No, it's not true. But I did. Sometimes I preached in the K-State football jersey.
Yeah.
I was trying to be relevant and cool, but here's what we want to get at, right? This is what we want to say. You don't want your clothes to distract.
Yeah.
You want to wear clothes, all right? This is the key. You want to wear clothes that are culturally appropriate and not distracting. I think I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Where you are in Denver, what you wear is culturally appropriate, and it's not distracting. In other words, you're not drawing attention to yourself.
That's right.
Talk to me about how pastors might draw attention to themselves.
Okay, so here's the thing. Another interesting part of this is what I've noticed in recent years is, and a lot of it's just out of fun, but, the preachers and sneakers thing, right? Well, I had a guy.
Actually, Dan and I are teachers in Skechers.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and there's this. Here's the way the other
because we can't bend over
that's
a tire.
Right. That's right.
Dan and I were doing podcasts together. I'm sorry, Mark. Dan and I were doing podcasts together a couple of weeks ago in his house. You weren't able to be there, and I'm looking down at my feet and his feet, and we both got Skechers on. And they're the slip-ons where you don't have to tie. And I'm thinking, that is such an old person thing.
You've reached a new season.
So we don't have to tie. Okay, anyways.
All I was going to say is this. I think we need to be careful, sometimes young guys, to not dress in a way that draws attention. Not because you're sloppy, not because it's a suit, but because you're wearing $300 Jordans.
Yeah.
And guess what? There are people in your audience that notice that, and you may think, well, it's cool. It's a way to connect with people. Maybe not. It might be. What's my pastor doing wearing shoes that are $300? I mean, I'm just saying, and it's not just shoes. I mean, it can be any kind of clothing. Some guys dress to the nines to a point where it's almost distracting. This is why I've always said, again, if it were up to me, and we're not going back there. But, Lloyd Jones wore a robe.
I know.
And preachers throughout history wore robes. Right. Why? Because the preacher's job is to disappear. And, the robes, behind the Word of God.
The robes that Lloyd Jones wore were not the multicolored ones.
They were black. It was a black plain robe.
Black plain robe. Didn't even have any other color things on it. It was just a black plain robe.
But the point behind that, though, was, again, however you dress, it's like you're disappearing.
Yeah.
You're behind a black robe. You're a messenger of the Word of God this morning to preach the Scriptures.
And there are still Southern Baptist cultures where you wear a robe. I mean, you go over to the East Coast.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But one of the things that I'm always it crosses my mind a lot, actually, because I'm in the business world. I used to have a boss. In the corporate world, it was like you dress like however the boss dresses.
Yeah.
That was the kind of the way.
Yeah, I get it would make sense.
Yeah.
But then I had a boss who said, don't dress the way I dress the way your customers dress. And so it kind of it was a flip, as we looked at our customers, we began to see a whole different kind of an attitude.
Yep.
So I think if you take the attitude, I'm going to dress the way my people dress, that's a safe way to do it.
Yeah.
But it may not be the best way to do it either.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, again, you need to be culturally appropriate. Obviously, if absolutely nobody in your congregation even sniffs a sport coat, you probably don't want to show up in a three-piece suit because that's going to draw attention to yourself, all right?
Yeah. But I'm with you, bro, in saying err on the side. This is what I've always, and I can hear my dad. Mark, always err on the side of dressing up a little more
that's what I was gonna
than
say.
the average person in church, and I think that's right.
That's what I'm going to say. If you're in a church where nobody wears a sport coat, nobody wears a tie, maybe you wear slacks, not jeans.
Yeah.
Or if you wear jeans, like you said, you wear really nice ones.
Yeah.
And maybe you wear a sweater. I think a sweater or a vest because otherwise, do you tuck your shirt in or not tuck it in?
Yeah.
And sometimes, an untucked shirt is very common anymore. It's appropriate in many ways, but it's still an untucked shirt.
Yeah.
And so I know we're getting into the woods here. I mean, this is
it's okay. No, it's all right. Yeah.
Every great spiritual awakening has begun with tucked or untucked. I get it. Okay, we're nearly out of topics for a podcast when we're talking about tucked or untucked. But as a matter of think about this, guys. Where I know people make fun of Kevin Ezell here at NAM for a lot of reasons, but one of them is he has a tendency to wear sweater vest all the time, and I do too. I wear sweater vest a lot because a sweater vest is a way of sort of dressing up without dressing up. Yeah. All right, you don't have to worry about the tucked or the untucked, and it looks nice.
Any context you're in.
So maybe think of some sort of a sweater vest or something like that if you're not into sport coat, but something that says I'm culturally appropriate, but I'm aware that what I'm doing on the platform is important and needs to be respected.
That's good.
And so be culturally appropriate, but like you said, maybe just a little bit above that.
One thing I was thinking of earlier, by the way, that's just interesting, the world of sports. When you were talking about hockey.
Yes.
There was a real shift, and I think it was probably, for sure, 2020 affected it, but in coaches, like Bill Belichick was the first coach to start wearing a hoodie sweatshirt. Remember that? Like when we were little, like Tom Landry would wear the top hat.
They look sharp.
And I noticed that all the way, even in professional basketball now.
Yeah.
It's like it has really gone down. Like rarely do you see anybody dressed up.
Have you flown on a plane lately?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Okay, and I mean there are people who get on planes literally in pajama pants.
Oh yeah,
and slippers.
It used to not be that way.
If you wanted something that really kind of freaks you out, go back and look at photos of cities in the 1930s and 40s and how people dressed. Look at how they dressed at baseball games in the 1950s.
True.
Our culture has reverted big time, big time. When people will show up at an airplane, and literally dressed in literally pajama pants or And of course, we all know Fetterman. I mean, he's a unique character, right?
Boy, yeah.
But recently, he showed up at the inauguration in a hoodie and cutoffs.
Right.
I mean, what as a pastor, I'm not here to talk about the whole cultural degradation that we're going through, but I do think we need to take that into account because, like you said, Hank Stram, the Chiefs, man, he's on the sidelines, always dressed in a suit. All those guys did, and then now it's the athletic gear. And again, basketball coaches always used to be in a suit, and now they're in athletic gear. It's not going to go the other way.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to keep going that way. Yeah. That's a whole. But I think when you're preaching and you're bringing the gospel, be culturally appropriate, but be just a little bit dressed a little bit more than the cultural appropriateness at that moment. Yeah. But here's the real deal. You ready? Don't draw attention to yourself with your wardrobe.
Say that again. That's the big point.
That's the big point. That's what we're trying to say here, guys. Don't draw attention to yourself with your wardrobe. Now, obviously, that means don't dress up too much. That'd be weird. Don't dress down so much that you kind of look sloppy and you want to look cool. Don't wear shoes, like you say, sneakers that cost $300, things like that. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. And that's part of even with the, unless you're in a culture where big, bright Hawaiian shirts are worn by everybody in church, you probably shouldn't wear one in the pulpit because you're just kind of drawing attention to yourself and that kind of thing.
I would add,
please.
To make sure that it fits whatever you wear.
Well, that's
true. If you're wearing a shirt that looks like you're about to take out a couple of parishioners with your buttons, come on, wear something that
fits.
A
good point.
Dude.
That's a good point.
No, that's very, very true.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right. That's why they make big and tall men's stores.
That's right.
Dan and I know something about these places.
Do.
Well, Spurgeon, here's the thing. Spurgeon said, he would talk about in preaching that you want to have plain speech, right? And so when he talk about plain speech, what is he saying? You want to be able to speak to every man. I think in some ways he also talked, it's plain dress. So plain dress would be, hey, this is culturally appropriate. It's not over the top. It's not drawing attention. As best you can, you don't want to be noticeable. And again, depending on the context, that's why we're not legalists here. We're not going to say, this is what you can or can't wear. But I do think you need to use godly wisdom and humility. Ask your wife, honestly. Ask others. Sometimes as dudes, like we can be clueless with this stuff. But give some thought to this. It matters.
Yeah, and I think if you're trying to look hip or whatever cool, if you're trying to look that way, that's an issue.
It's a warning sign.
It's a warning sign. So I like what you say as we're going to wrap this up, and we'll put this in the show notes, but this is really important. This is what Hallock says. Be prayerfully honest with yourself and make sure two things. Your conscience is clear before the Lord about this. That your conscience is clear. You're not doing it to get people to look at you. You're not doing it, people say, what cool looking clothes he's got. Your conscience is clear. And number two, err on the side of plain and unimpressive. Which, and people try to summarize my preaching, it's plain and unimpressive. So I'm cool with that. But in terms of the way you dress, err on the side of plain and unimpressive. I think that's really wise and counsel. But always make yourself small so that Jesus can be big.
Amen.
And make the gospel big.
Not
and
your wardrobe.
make yourself plain so that Jesus shines more brightly. Don't let your wardrobe or what you're wearing distract from what you're saying. That's what I got to say.
Good word.
Okay, now let's talk about flip-flops. Okay, maybe not. Thank you so much for taking time. This has been a very short subject to talk about, and we actually turned it into a good 20 minutes.
I know.
How do you do that?
Well, it's
a gift.
It's a gift, and half our audience isn't listening anymore anyway. By the way, if you listen to the very end of this, if you're still listening, wait till Dan's through with the outro, and there's always a little Easter egg at the end.
Every once in a while. Not always, but every once in a while. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thank you to North American Mission Board for making this possible, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.